This edition of Southern Newsweek, the Southern Steel netball team have returned home following their grand final win. New Zealand's only sled dog event on snow is held at Wanaka's snow farm. And teachers march in protest for higher pay and better conditions. Kia ora, I'm Sophie Morris. The champion Southern Steel netball team have returned home to a rapturous welcome in Invercargill. Hundreds turned out to greet the team after their nail-biting win against the Central Pulse in the ANZ Premiership Grand Final.
A hero's welcome. Members of the victorious Southern Steel netball team were given the full homecoming treatment as they returned home with the ANZ Premiership Cup. They've claimed the title for a second year running after a one-goal victory over the Central Pulse in Palmerston North on Sunday. A tired but ecstatic Captain Wendy Frew says winning the title and the warm welcome means a lot.
Oh, no better feeling in the world, like the girls to support at home, and just an extreme experience, and just so proud to lead the girls to that.
One hardy Southern bloke paid homage to Frew's topless locker room picture, while school kids waved balloons and greeted the victorious team members. Frew says the support from the entire region has been overwhelming.
Otago and Southland, everyone's just been so loyal to us, and it's fantastic to have so many people get on the bus and support us, and just so proud to be a Southlander and obviously the Otago girls too.
Those who greeted the team got a chance to touch the silverware and rub shoulders with the players. Invercargill Mayor Tim Shadbolt says the Steel's victory is a massive boost for the region.
Oh, just absolutely unbelievable, and what they have done is lift the confidence of the whole province as well as Invercargill, and it's confidence that is so much part of business and so much part of positive development.
The team are likely to be celebrated with a street parade in Invercargill this week, putting the icing on the cake for Frew's netball swan song. In Invercargill, the South Today.
There was barking, laughter and general chaos at the Wanaka Sled Dog Festival at Snow Farm recently. The early morning sun warmed the trails on the second day of the festival. Race coordinator Sarah Campbell says the weather and snow conditions were absolutely perfect. It's the only sled dog event in New Zealand held on snow. Normally, racing is done on dry land and forests where wheeled rigs and scooters are used. Campbell says the uniqueness of the event is a big attraction for many, and the only downside is they have to start at sunrise so the dogs don't overheat. This year's International Film Festival included a crowd-funded film which was recently shot in Central Otago. Stray is Dustin Fennelly's first film, and he says the beautiful yet brooding landscapes of the South were pivotal in making the film.
Pleased to have his film debut screening at Dunedin's Regent Theatre. Filmmaker Dustin Fennelly is in the South to help promote the International Film Festival's screening of Stray. The film examines two strangers meeting up in central Otago's desolate landscape, a location deliberately chosen to echo the film's characters.
Is this your place? It's my dad's.
There's a real duality to, I think, Central Otago landscapes in winter because they're beautiful, stunning and pristine in terms of the natural environment, but there's also something haunting and melancholic in winter, and that duality of that landscape really appealed to me because it also reflects the duality of the characters, Jack and Grace in the film, who, are relatively damaged people with trauma in their lives.
This is the 42nd year of the New Zealand International Film Festival, and Fennelly says the annual event is instrumental in helping emerging directors.
You get to travel the country with it, I'm here in Dunedin, coming from Auckland, courtesy of the film festival, and it's been in Auckland, Wellington, Christchurch, Dunedin, Hamilton, Masterton, and it's going to Hamilton and Masterton. So that tour and that circuit is all possible because of the film festival.
The budding director is already working on his next movie, which he hopes to film in Southland in the near future.
It's a psychological thriller. It's about a middle-aged female cop who's investigating a crime, but it's also a character drama in the sense that it's an examination of her marriage and her ultimately leaving that unhappy marriage. So yeah, I'm finding time to write that script, look at locations, whilst also obviously getting Stray out into the world.
Stray comes back to commercial cinema screens in early October. In Dunedin, for the South Today.
Primary and intermediate teachers throughout the South marched in support of higher pay and better conditions as part of a nationwide strike on Thursday. Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern criticised teachers for leaving the negotiating table too early. The union says Thursday's strike may just be the start.
1, 2, 3, 4, losing teachers, we need more.
More than 500 primary and intermediate teachers and their supporters turned out in Dunedin this morning, demanding higher pay and better conditions as part of a nationwide strike.
But you guys are awesome. Look at us all here together. Let's celebrate it. Let's get out there and let's do this.
I'm not going to lie, there have been a few times I've been thinking about quitting. The burnout is insane, the workload is extreme, and we need help. That's why we're here today, is because we actually need help.
The protesters then hit the streets, their line stretching half a kilometre down Portsmouth Drive as they marched towards the city centre. Teachers were also asked to show their support for further industrial action if the government doesn't listen to their demands for more pay. Across the south, hundreds took part in marches. About 150 people marched through the main street of Wanaka, stopping outside the town's 4 Square to deliver a specially written protest song.
Hey there parents, we are teachers and we're fighting for your kids. Better learning and teaching conditions is what we're asking for, recipients.
Dozens of teachers also marched through Queenstown CBD.
We're really concerned about education at the moment. We're concerned about the number of teachers who are coming into the profession, who are staying in the profession, the workload issues, the support of our children with higher learning needs. We need change and we need action.
While just down the road in Frankton, teachers, children and supporters marched for about an hour and a half along State Highway 6.
It's really nice to see a really united front, isn't
yes,
it?
Yeah, it's lovely.
It's
lovely.
Really, and as you can hear, there's lots of support for us in our community. Our school communities and parents have been really supportive.
Teachers in Ashburton turned out in big numbers, saying they'd support 2-day strike action if needed. While further south, a small but vocal group took their message to the main street in Alexandra.
And what is it about? It's about trying to get teachers into the profession. We're running out of teachers. A pay rise will help attract the young ones, but we want to keep the good ones as well.
In Oamaru, teachers from 16 North Otago schools marched from Fenwick School down State Highway 1 shortly before noon, and 80 teaching staff and the supporters gathered alongside State Highway 1 in Balclutha for a strike picket. Meanwhile, more than 400 Southland teachers gathered at Stadium Southland.
I'm really happy. It's an amazing turnout. This tells me that everybody's on board. Everybody thinks this is an issue and everybody wants it sorted. The black hole is a symbol showing approximately the percentage of teachers through attrition and retirement will leave the profession in 8 to 10 years' time.
Today marked the first teachers' strike in New Zealand in nearly quarter of a century, but they may not wait that long for the next one, with threats of further action if their demands aren't met. The South Today.
Still to come on Southern Newsweek. Over 60 drivers take part in the annual Catlins Coast Rally, and countdown supermarkets across Otago and Southland face out single-use plastic bags. Welcome back. The Dunedin City Council had a pile of cardboard recycling dumped on its driveway by a frustrated Waikawaiti man. Alistair Beard says his recycling bin isn't being emptied properly on Rubbish Day, and he wanted to make a point.
Annoyed his yellow bin wasn't emptied properly, Waikawaiti Fish Inn owner Alistair Beard dumps his cardboard recycling outside the DCC. Dunedin's recycling bins are emptied by being mechanically turned upside down and shaken, but Baird says folded cardboard has been sticking in his recycling bin due to insufficient shaking.
It's the second time it's happened, and there's actually they haven't emptied the bin properly, they don't shake it properly.
He says another contractor who empties his red-lidded bin doesn't have the same problem.
We actually have another contract with the dry waste with the red top bin. They have no trouble emptying the bin. even though sometimes we jump on a little bit to fill it up, as we all do.
Baird says he drove all the way into town to leave his recycling on the council's doorstep to make a point.
The point of that is just to make the point. Yeah, really, I mean, it's a bit ridiculous, but it's just to make the point to them, you know what I mean?
The City Council says their staff visited Baird yesterday and explained that recycling bins should not be filled so tightly that the contents are stuck when the bin is tipped up by the truck. And if people have more recycling than they can fit into their curbside recycling bin, it can be dropped off to the Green Island landfill at no charge. In Dunedin, for the South Today.
The hills were alive with the sound of roaring engines last weekend as the annual Catlins Coast Rally took to the hills behind Wanaka. More than 60 drivers from far and wide pitted their skills and nerves, racing against the clock as they tore around the 6-stage rally.
And they're off. 67 drivers from around the country, all vying to take top honours at the Catlins Coast Rally on Saturday. Drivers say the variable road conditions on the 6 stages in the Catlins Hills near Balclutha are always challenging.
Roads and wide and flowing and cresting and a bit of tricky stuff, got to respect it sort of thing. We've got 2 battles on here. We've got us versus the road, and if we can get that one going good, we'll be all right.
And the frosty start to the day didn't stop anyone from putting the foot down.
There's a lot of gravel on a couple of them, but no, it's great. Awesome place.
Defending champion and red-hot favourite local driver Andrew Graves from Gore put his best foot forward and racked up a big lead in the middle of the day.
We're just driving down the middle of the road, just doing what we do, but we seem to be coming away with a good result, so it's good.
But not everyone had such a successful time, with some drivers inevitably failing to finish, while others rolled the dice and took their chances, pushing themselves and their machines to the limit.
We had 30 seconds going to the last stage and we should be easily defendable, but of course away it goes 7Ks and then the tyre blew off the rim, so we tore it out, well not tore it out, we drove as fast as we could but lost just a bit of time.
For the record, Graves held on to win by nearly a minute from Hawkeswood, securing his 4th Catlins Coast victory. In Balclutha, for the South Today.
Countdown supermarkets across Otago and Southland have phased out single-use plastic bags at the checkout. They join nearly a third of their supermarkets across the country. And it appears local shoppers were positive about the environmentally friendly stance.
No more single-use plastic bags for shoppers at Countdown's Dunedin Central Supermarket. It's just one of the stores across the country which, as of today, are now plastic bag free, making Dunedin one of the first cities in the country where all Countdown supermarkets have made the shift. And it seems Dunedin shoppers are happy with the change.
So we've gotten rid of them now? Sweet.
But I think it's a good thing.
I think it's a good idea, yeah.
That's great. I've been doing it for a long time now. It's a long time coming.
As of today, customers are being encouraged to bring their own eco-friendly bags. The supermarket chain sells bags for $1 each, which can be replaced by the store when they wear out. There's also the robust plastic bags designed to last 20 shopping trips. They're selling for 15 cents, with all proceeds going to charity. Plenty of shoppers brought their own stylish bags to get groceries, with some hoping today's shift being merely a sign of things to come.
Maybe using kettle or flex bag alternatives, sustainable, reusable, biodegradable. I think it's great.
I'm all for reducing plastic, and I'd like to see supermarkets reduce packaging.
Put these back into glass.
Countdown estimate the initial move will prevent 2 million plastic bags entering the waste stream each week, with more supermarkets around the country set to follow. In Dunedin, for the South Today.
Nearly 300 people turned out to discuss controversial plans to significantly expand Queenstown Airport's noise boundaries. The airport recently announced plans to expand its noise boundaries into large residential areas and almost double aircraft movements by 2045.
Standing room only at the Remarkables Primary School Hall, nearly 300 people turning up to have their say on plans by Queenstown Airport to expand its noise boundaries and double aircraft movements over the next 30 years.
But I think where this debate has gone now is a discussion about growth. And I think we're hearing the community talk, finally having a stage to talk about growth.
The meeting was hosted by the Frankton Community Association as a way for residents to contribute to their submission on the airport proposal. Destination Queenstown boss Graham Budd faced tough questions from the audience around the impacts of growth and comparisons between Queenstown and other under-pressure tourist hotspots around the world.
And if you just hold your thought about what they're currently specifically proposing, I think we would equally criticise them if they took no future view of what they needed to do to enable future demand or growth, whatever that looked like.
The health impacts of increased noise were also highlighted. Dr Marion Poole from the Southern District Health Board says there's a range of possible consequences.
Sleep disturbance, that sense of annoyance, interference with communication may all be impacted with noise from the aircraft.
Lawyer Jane McDonald says if City Hall agreed on a variation to the district plan, a legal challenge would be pricey.
Perhaps one of the failings, some might not see it as a failing, of the RMA is that increasingly if you want to get your point across, you need to spend your money on some experts.
Queenstown Airport Corporation wasn't invited to the meeting. Association head Glyn Lewis says it was for the community to share its views. In Queenstown, the South Today.
This year marks 125 years since the main women's suffrage petition was tabled in Parliament. The petition helped New Zealand women to be among the first in the world to get the vote. And the enormous number of signatures collected was in part due to the tireless work of 3 Dunedin women.
In Dunedin's Southern Cemetery lie the graves of 2 Dunedin suffragists, Marion Hatton and Helen Nicol, who along with a third, Harriet Morrison, helped organise the Dunedin contribution to the 1893 petition, a petition which eventually saw New Zealand women get the vote. Former history professor Dorothy Page says the achievement was a formidable one.
They said at the beginning they wanted to make sure that every street, every house was canvassed. I'm not sure how far they did. 60% of the eligible women in South Dunedin signed. I think it's just hard work to some extent, and they went to the outlying districts. Hatton went down to Gore, there was a huge meeting down there.
Were it not for the suffragette movement, the 3 women might not have known each other, but Dr Page says they did possess similar qualities.
They're different in that way, one English, one Scottish, one Irish. They all came from, however, highly achieving useful sort of backgrounds.
Following the success of the petition, Dunedin women used their influence to stymie the hopes of mayoral candidate Henry Fish.
They did realise that they could dispose of Fish, and they did so, and he acknowledged that it was the women's vote that lost him the mayoralty. He held it for 6 terms, 6 one-year terms, so he was quite deeply established.
The legacy of the hard work the suffragists put into the 1893 petition continues to this very day. In Dunedin, the South Today.
Still to come on Southern Newsweek. Whitebaiters try their luck on the first day of the season across much of New Zealand. And a pair of diamond-studded gold earrings go up for auction to raise funds for mental health charities. Welcome back. Enthusiastic whitebaiters have tried their luck on the first day of the season across much of New Zealand. While the tiny juvenile fish are a much sought after delicacy, some of the whitebaiters are out on the river just for the fun of it.
A good start to the season. There's several patties worth of whitebait in the bucket from this morning's catch for Colin and Christine Melvin of Balclutha. They've been coming to their favourite spot on the Clutha River for many years, and not just drawn by the lure of catching the wriggling delicacy as they swim upstream.
I think the whitebait is just a bonus. It's just like a crib, but you do a tie mouth and stuff like that, but we got one down the river, so...
I like the company with all meeting new people, and whitebaiting, it doesn't really worry me, it's just a joy being down here.
Whitebait runs vary from year to year, but the good ones are fondly remembered.
Hopefully it might be a good one. It's about 3 years ago we had a good season, so hopefully it will compare this year again.
And while they know what constitutes a good whitebait season, that's not the overall goal.
Yeah, good. Yeah, it's got a good season, probably over £100, you know.
Yeah. Hopefully we can get £100 this year. Be good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But as I said, it's just a bonus.
Yep.
And down here, I mean, it's good fun. You know, it's a hustle and bustle. I think you're away from that.
We're not worried if we don't catch the bait. We're just here to enjoy it.
The whitebait season for Southland and Otago runs until the end of November. In Balclutha for the South Today.
CrossFit enthusiasts from around the South Island spent last weekend battling it out for fitness supremacy. The CrossFit craze is well entrenched in the exercise world, but the Clang and Bang event was a first for the mainland.
Not a lot of blood, but certainly buckets of sweat and tears. The Clang and Bang event at Dunedin's CrossFit Uncut Gym drew over 100 athletes in a first for the South Island.
So the goal for this is to basically have a select of different bunch of categories from teens to masters, and then scaled athletes, which are people that are just starting and have some limitations in their movement, through to RX athletes, which are more the advanced athletes.
Competitors were put through their paces in a range of grueling CrossFit WODs or workouts of the day, with the top athletes advancing to the semi-finals. But Lecky says it's more about testing your own limits rather than the competition.
It's fun. It's fun torture. I don't know, I think the biggest thing that probably I find the guys find out about CrossFit is that they learn something about themselves, so they test their limits.
And he says success in the Clang and Bang comes down to preparation.
Well, the idea of CrossFit is that it's the unknown and unknowable, so they don't actually get to find out into what the events are until within a few hours of doing it. So the way that they train obviously dictates how they perform, you know.
Competitors ranged from as young as 15 through to people in their mid-50s, with organisers hoping it'll become an annual event in Dunedin, the South Today.
A plan to fund a major study into options for a performing arts venue in Dunedin has been given a welcome boost by Creative New Zealand. The organisation will provide $120,000 towards a feasibility study, which will look at venue options following the demise of the Fortune Theatre.
The Fortune Theatre's demise has freed up funds for other applicants to performing arts funding, with hundreds of thousands of dollars up for grabs.
Our 95,000, and the 100,000 from Creative New Zealand, is money that we were granting to the Fortune Theatre, and we've decided to ring fence that to enable us to support the continued provision of professional theatre in the city. So that'll be made available through our community arts grant process, which is well known to the creative community already.
Creative New Zealand's contribution adds to the DCC's $200,000, which has been allocated for a study as part of the 10-year plan. The council says it's part of a comprehensive look at the arts in the city.
We're going to go back to a blank sheet of paper and work out what the best vision for the performing arts across the city is. We've developed that vision in close association with the creative community here.
Dixon says they've advertised for people to undertake the study, looking at venues as well as the general performing arts scene in Dunedin. He says a team is nearly assembled.
We're already advertised for consultancies to come together to bid for that work, and that will be probably a lead consultant with designers and architects and business planners and theatre specialists as appropriate.
Dixon says it'll take council staff and advisors some time to complete the study, and in the meantime they've made sure there's plenty of money in the pot to maintain an active arts scene. In Dunedin, the South Today.
A 6-year battle with depression has inspired a young student to donate proceeds from her jewellery business to mental health charities. And she's taking it a step further, auctioning a pair of diamond-studded gold earrings to raise further funds.
Earrings that stand out and can perhaps spark a life-saving conversation. Otago Polytechnic fashion design student Alicia Pyers created these earrings as a start-up business, with $5 from every pair sold going to mental health charities.
I've actually got a pair on now, so that if you turn them sideways, they're meant to be an artistic representation of our heartbeat, and so basically that's just representing all the ups and downs of life.
Pyres has raised around $200 for charity so far. Now she's moving up a notch with a pair made in gold with inlaid diamonds being auctioned off, with all proceeds going to charity. She says her dedication to the cause is personal.
I had 3 big lows over the last 6 years. One when I was 15, one when I was 18, and again last year when I was 20. And last year was definitely the worst. So I ended up in hospital after a suicide attempt and spent 5 days, the first 20 hours in emergency and then the next 5 days in the cardiac ward.
She says her unique earring design can help start potentially life-saving conversations about depression.
They sort of serve as a conversation starter, so they spark conversation around mental health. So, you know, someone might say, hey, I like your earrings, and then kind of opens up for, oh, actually, this is the meaning behind the earrings. I think the biggest thing for me is raising awareness that it's not weak to speak and that it's okay to not be okay.
The gold and diamond version of the earrings will be auctioned off on Trade Me during the last 2 weeks of August. Help and advice for depression is available through several call-free numbers. In Dunedin, for the South Today.
That's all for Southern Newsweek. Get online and check us out on Facebook or keep up with Southern News via our website, channel39.co.nz. I'm Sophie Morris. Thanks for watching.
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.